All right, so today we're diving into something pretty wild. You sent us this article about Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, right? And we're gonna like dig into his story, his work, and honestly, some pretty big concerns he has about AI.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff.
Okay, so one thing that really jumped out at me, Hinton wins a Nobel Prize in physics, but for his work in computer science.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that all about?
It is a fascinating story. You see, Hinton was way ahead of his time, like really ahead of his time. He was pioneering something called neural networks. So imagine trying to explain to someone, back when people were just getting used to email, that we could teach computers to think like the human brain.
It's like, okay, I'm picturing someone trying to invent the internet in the 1950s. People probably look at him like, what in the world are you talking about?
Exactly. For a long time, neural networks were seen as this fringe area of research, you know. But Hinton, he was persistent. He truly believed that this was the key to unlocking real artificial intelligence. And even when it wasn't popular, even when people were skeptical, he stuck with it. And you know what?
Yeah.
He was absolutely right.
I mean, you're not wrong, because now it seems like neural networks are everywhere. Our phones recognize our faces. Those virtual assistants, the Alexis and Sirius of the world, they understand what we're saying. Even the ads we see online, they're all tailored to our interests. This is all because of neural networks, right?
That's incredible, right? His work is the foundation for so much of the AI we interact with every single day. It's not just about making computers smarter. It's really about changing how we as humans approach problem solving, and this is where that Nobel Prize comes in, I think.
Okay, so back to that. It's an amazing accomplishment, don't get me wrong, but they gave it to him in physics. For computer science? I mean, come on. I get that science is interconnected and everything, but that seems like a bit of a stretch.
I totally understand the confusion. Yeah, it definitely raised some eyebrows. You have to understand, traditionally, the Nobel Prize in physics, that goes to, huge discoveries about the fundamental laws of the universe, things like astrophysics, particle physics, stuff like that. And to be fair, some physicists weren't thrilled. They felt a bit overshadowed, like, hey, what about our field?
Right, like, excuse me, are you trying to tell us something new and exciting isn't happening in physics?
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. The Nobel Committee, they saw something different. They recognized that Hinton's work, it wasn't just about building a better computer or a faster algorithm. It was about fundamentally changing how we solve problems. And that includes problems in physics and chemistry and biology.
So it's almost like AI is becoming so fundamental to how we do science that it's like breaking down the walls between the different disciplines.
That's a brilliant way to put it. It was a wake-up call, this award, forcing everyone to really acknowledge the massive ripple effect AI is having across multiple fields.
It's like we're not just in the information age anymore. We're entering the AI age, where it's not just a tool for science, but almost a scientific discipline in its own right.
Precisely. And speaking of groundbreaking AI, this is where the story takes another interesting turn, because we have to talk about Sam Altman and OpenAI.
Okay, yeah, bring me up to speed. What's the connection with OpenAI?
You remember that whole controversy back in 2023?
With Sam Altman?
Yeah, when he got briefly ousted.
Vaguely, yeah. It was a whole big dramatic thing, right?
It was huge news because OpenAI, they're at the forefront of AI research. And their whole goal is to develop this thing called artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
AGI.
It's like AI that's not just good at one thing.
Okay.
It can do everything a human can do.
Okay, that's getting a little too Black Mirror for me now.
Right. And so
But I do remember, there were disagreements, right? About, how he was running things.
exactly. There were concerns about, how fast he was pushing things and were they paying enough attention to the risks,
Right, and this is where it ties back to Hinton, right?
Exactly, because
Because he's been very vocal about, the ethical side of all this.
he's not anti-technology,
Yeah.
but he's definitely been like, hey, we need to be careful.
We need some safeguards.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah, so it's less about the drama of it all and more about, how we balance this incredible power that we're unleashing
Absolutely.
and making sure we're doing it responsibly.
It's about finding that balance.
Okay, so you mentioned that Hinton has, two big fears about AI, and this feels like the perfect time to dive into those.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
what is he most worried about?
Oh, his first fear is about what happens when AI gets into the wrong hands, when it's used for authoritarian purposes.
What does that look like? Give me a real-world example.
Think about facial recognition technology, but on a much larger scale. Imagine governments using AI to basically create these systems of constant surveillance where they're monitoring every move you make, every website you visit.
Like a social credit system, but much more advanced.
Exactly. And that's just the beginning.
Oh, great.
Imagine AI being able to predict your behavior, control your behavior with incredible accuracy. That's what Hinton's talking about.
Like it's straight out of a dystopian novel almost.
It is scary stuff,
Mm.
and that's just the first fear.
Okay, so what's number 2?
Uncontrolled superintelligence.
Superintelligence. So we're not just talking about AI that's as smart as us. We're talking about something way beyond that.
Way beyond that, something that can outthink us in every way.
So not just taking our jobs, but like potentially making decisions that we can't even comprehend.
And the scary part is not even that it'll be malicious.
Right?
It's that its goals might just be so different from ours that we become irrelevant.
Okay, that's giving me chills.
Like imagine an AI that's programmed to make paper clips.
Okay.
Sounds harmless, right?
Yeah.
But it gets so smart that it starts converting everything on Earth into resources to make paper clips.
Because that's its goal.
Exactly, and humans get in the way.
Doesn't matter.
Irrelevant.
Okay, so now I'm starting to see why Hinton is a little concerned.
Yeah.
But if we're creating something smarter than us, how do we even begin to control it?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's something that Hinton and a lot of people in the AI field are really wrestling with right now.
Well,
It's like, we're not trying to stop progress, but we have to make sure we're not erasing ourselves in the process,
Okay, so where do we go from here? It feels like we're talking about forces way beyond any one person or even any one government.
I get it. You can feel overwhelming.
Right.
But Hinton's big thing is a two-pronged approach. First, we need to put our money where our mouth is and invest, like really invest, in AI safety research.
So we need the brightest minds focused on like how do we control this thing? How do we make sure it doesn't turn into, a sci-fi horror movie?
It's not about preventing the sci-fi movie plot. It's about making sure the AI understands what we value as humans.
Mhm.
And the second part,
Hmm?
regulations.
But can regulations really keep up with something as fast-moving as AI? By the time they write the rules, won't the technology already be way ahead?
Think about it this way. We regulate all sorts of powerful stuff, right? Nuclear energy, medicine. We do it because the stakes are too high not to. Yeah, it'll be tough, but we need some ground rules, some global cooperation. We can't let short-term profits outweigh the risks to humanity.
He makes a really strong argument, and I have to say you've done a great job of laying it all out there, but I have to admit my head is kind of spinning with all this talk of superintelligence and, potential doom and gloom. What would you say to someone listening who's feeling that same way?
First of all, that's totally normal. Like, if you're not a little freaked out by this stuff, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You're already ahead of the game just by being aware of it, by listening to conversations like this one.
So instead of freaking out, what can we do? It still feels like all this is being decided by Silicon Valley billionaires and government.
Never underestimate the power of being an informed citizen. Stay curious about this stuff. Ask questions. There are organizations fighting for ethical AI. Support them. Talk to your friends about this. The more of us understand AI, the better shot we have of making sure it serves us, not the other way around.
That's a great point. We started with Jeffrey Hinton, but this is really about all of us, right? This isn't just happening to us. It's something we all have a stake in.
100%.
This has been a fascinating and kind of scary, but ultimately really important conversation. And to everyone listening, stay curious, stay engaged, and let's make sure the future of AI is a future worth looking forward to.